Now that's a hell of a thumbnail. Anyway, so just wanted to go over a project that I worked on. Got limited time, so I'm gonna try to be as quick as possible. So basically, what I needed to do was there were a bunch of users that needed to be moved from a bunch of servers. This is a back-end application. The users are in a configuration file. So you need to go to each server, locate the configuration file, remove the users. You have like, let's say 100 of them. That's a lot of them. Don't want to do it manually. That's one of the interesting things about programming is if you're lazy, in some ways programming is for you. You got to put the work in to learn and get good at it, of course. But you know, anything that's redundant, anything that's boring, takes too much time, you can do it faster with programming, right? Here's a perfect case. I'm not going to go try and remove all these users manually. So I put together a script. Now, that's one thing. The other thing is how complex are you going to make this script? This is a one-time thing. I'm going to, of course, archive it. I may need to do something like this in the future, so I'll archive it so I can have the logic I can use again. But it's a one-time thing, so it doesn't make sense to make it too fancy. So sometimes you will not let the limitations of your skill set get in the way to where there's something that you need to do and you know there's a better way to do it, but you don't necessarily know how to do it right now, and it's going to take you a lot of time to go and research and find out how to do it the right way that you know you should be doing it. But rather than waste time doing that, you do it in a little bit of a sloppy way. I'm saying sloppy, but let's just say inefficient way. So what I ended up doing, first of all, one of the most efficient ways to do this that I wanted to do, but I just didn't have the time to go and figure it out. I wanted to get it done fast. Was from one location, run a script that would. So obviously everything is going to be based on a what I call the control file. So a file that has the list of the users and the servers that they're on, and any other relevant information that you're going to need to get the job done. So you have a control file that has all these servers in there and users in there. So from one location, run a script that will go line by line. Probably most logical ways to group by server, right? Because otherwise you're hopping around. So I'll group, first of all, sort your control list by server would be logical. So you have 20 users on one server, all right? So the script from a single location, when I say location, I mean server, will go to that server, seek out those 20 users or however many, remove each one, and then go to the next server and do the next batch of users on that server. But some complexities involved. That's not really that difficult to do, but there's some complexities involved, security issues and other things like that. So I skipped that and I did it sort of sloppy way. But what I ended up doing was there's a central server that is a good access point to go where I needed to go. So I ran the script from that one location, but what I ended up doing was I would parse through the control file line by line. This is very, very sloppy, right? So you got 90 users. Luckily, it's not like thousands. Otherwise, this would not work. But anyway, so it's like 90 users, and you're going line by line, and you're checking for each user in the configuration files, right? So every run, you're checking for 90 users. Okay, didn't find any of them. Another 90 users go through. So very, very slow and sloppy, but in terms of getting the job done quickly, very fast. So sloppy in terms of the program itself, but I mean sloppy meaning it took like 30, 40 minutes to run. That's a long time for a simple job like this. But in terms of how much more time, hours to design it the right way and running into issues and fixing them and whatever, it's much faster to get this done pretty quickly, developed, and then run it in only 40 minutes and be done with it. So that's what I ended up doing. So basically, the main sloppy thing was just that I was going through the list. So I'd go on one server and I would check for all 90 users on that server. And then I'd go through and check and keep going on and on. So one thing I did to speed it up was I did an if statement where I would first check to see Oh, I would check to see if the server that I'm on is the same as where the user is supposed to be. So in the control file, it says user server name. I check that server name against the server that I'm on, and if they don't match, then I skip it, right? So you would see it fly through, skip, 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 brrr, boom, find a match. This user is on the same server that we're on right now. So let's go search for them. So it doesn't search in the config files unless the server that it's on is the same as where the user is. So that's one thing that I did to speed it up, because otherwise you're going to be checking for every single user. And like every time, like 90 users, you go to a server and you're checking for all 90, and you're actually literally going through these files. There's like multiple files. Let's say there's like 5 config files per server. You're gonna check 5 config files for a user that's not even on that server. So instead of doing that, I avoid all of that. I first check, is this user on this server anyway? Yes? Okay, now check all the configuration files for the user. Is the user on this server based on a control file, right, that has all the users and servers? Are they here? No, they're not here. Then don't even bother looking for them because they're not here. So I'll go on to the next user. Is this user on this location? So basically, does server match host name? Now I'll do command substitution. So the host name result shows me the server that I'm on. Does that match the value of the server in the file? So that was basically how it went. Some of the things I used was sed for sure. I use set to edit to remove the users from the configuration files. I also sped this up by what I was doing is I was doing a sed delete first line. So you go scanning through the file line by line. So I check for the first user on the first line, do whatever, then delete the first line from the file, then move on to the next, then move on to the next. That way, because remember, every time you're checking through the entire list of users. So if every time I run it, I remove that line, that means the file gets smaller and smaller and smaller. So the script starts running faster and faster and faster as we progress down to the list. So that was a basic thing. So for loops to iterate through all those users, sed to do the editing. I did some counting with the let statement. Let such and such equal this plus that. Grepping, of course. SSH-Q and single quotes to run a command remotely. And I think those are most of the things. If you guys have any questions about how I did it, let me know. Comment below. See you guys soon. This is Computer Programming University, where first step is always smile. Have a great weekend, everybody. I'm out. Yeah.